Pricing your home in 2021 is significantly different than it was in the past. And in this video, I'm going to share with you the best way to price your home to help you get you the most money and the most people actually looking and spending time wanting to see your home. There's always been this big disconnect between buyers and sellers when it's come down to pricing a property. And I've been in real estate for 17 years. My name's Amit Bhuta. I guess you can probably tell from the video, or if you're listening to the podcast, you probably got that as well. But I just want to share the methods that we've used in the 17 plus years I've been doing this. And we've been able to get roughly just under 96%. So 95 point whatever percentage changes as we sell homes and we get more listings. But we've sold roughly 96% of the homes that we've had listed. And in my 17 years, plus there are, other people on the team. And so it's probably slightly higher than that because they've had listings as well and we've sold them as well. So the secret is to think like a buyer and not like a seller. I'm going to get into that in a bit, but typically what happens is when a seller is pricing a property, what they'll do is if they live in a neighborhood or a subdivision or wherever they live, they're going to look in that area. So say they live in a place called Bonita Lakes. So Bonita Lakes is a community, and I'm just making this up. If there's a community named Bonita Lakes, that's great. But anyway, so someone has a home, say they have a single family home, it's in Bonita Lakes. The seller would look at what homes have sold in the last few months. They'll look at theirs. Typically sellers, and I'm not trying to make any fun of sellers, I'm just sharing the information that I've accustomed to seeing. Typically every seller thinks their home is better than the one that sold, just because, and it's okay to think that way because people remember all the good times they've had in their house, their emotions, so many memorable things. Also, they think about how long it took them to pick that tone of paint, how long it took them to pick the floors, and for them it was the best decision because that's what they picked, that's what they paid for. So many sellers think that's the best, because they picked it. And it's not always the case. Sometimes it is, but it's not always the case. So they look at this neighborhood, they look at homes that sold in this neighborhood, and then they look at homes that sold in this neighborhood within the last few months. They look at theirs, and then they make adjustments. They'll say, okay, well, we have a nicer kitchen, our kitchen is updated, we did the floors, whatever, and then they adjust accordingly. And that's how a seller typically does it. And the sad part is that's how most realtors do it. Most real estate agents, I would say probably 90 something percent will do that. They'll look at the subdivision that the property's in, they'll look at what's sold in the past, and then they'll price it accordingly. The problem is that's not how buyers look at properties. So typically what a buyer is going to do, and let's say these are the most motivated buyers, the buyers that you want if you're a seller, they're going to have an app on their phone. They're going to have either Zillow, Trulia, Compass's app. They're going to have Realtor.com, Redfin, or maybe another broker's app. So they're going to have it on their phone. They would have done a search on their app, and they're going to have notifications set up where it's going to notify them. And depending on how urgent they are in their process, and if these are the most motivated buyers, they're going to make it so whenever something comes on the market, immediately they're going to get a notification. And so also what they're going to do, and I'm going to share my screen with you now. And since I'm on a desktop, I'm not going to share like the apps. I'm just going to share with you the MLS, basically the multiple listing service that real estate agents, but we could do the same exercise with that. So when a buyer is looking for a home, they're not going to look for a particular neighborhood usually. And if they do, they're going to pick multiple neighborhoods. A more common thing is, And I'll give you an example. So say the buyer is looking to spend, instead of looking at Bonita Lakes, the buyer is probably going to say, I have 500,000 to 600,000 I want to spend. So let's go up to, let's say, and then they'll probably go a little bit higher. So say 650 or less. And they want to buy something that's at least a 4-bedroom, 2-bath, and they want to get at least 1 garage space, and they want at least 2,200 square feet of living area, and they want something built. Some people will have a build date, some people won't. Let's leave it blank. And they're going to want a single family home, and they're going to want it in Miami-Dade County, and they are going to want a certain zip codes. Or maybe they want a certain school district, if it's a family, or if it's someone that's working, that doesn't have a family, maybe they want it a particular zip code close to areas that they like, or whatever. So also maybe they want a pool. So let me see if I can find a pool. So pool only, and let me see, waterfront with, just say they want a pool. So just by doing that exercise, I looked in all of Miami. We have millions of people living in Miami. So we have a lot of homes. And so just by doing this exercise, by not even narrowing it down that much, I mean, price range, beds, baths, garage, square footage, and a pool, typically in the past, we'd have a lot of options. We'd have maybe hundreds of options. And when we had a lot of homes on the market. But look at this, there are only 13 that made that list. And those 13 are going to show whether you're on Zillow or whether you're in Redfin or the MLS. So out of these 13, let me go back. I'm going to share with you, they're all over the place. If you see, and if for those of you that don't know Miami, we have like a grid. We have like avenues and streets, and then we have like numbers. We typically don't have names. Sometimes we have names of addresses or streets, but not always. But so out of these 13, this buyer is looking to spend $650 or less. What they're asking for isn't that like big of a deal. They want a 4-bedroom, they want 2,200 square feet, and they want to spend $650 or less, 4 bedrooms, 2 baths, 2,200 square feet with a pool and a garage. That's it. And there's only 13 in Miami-Dade County. So like one is in Hialeah, another one is in Hialeah, one is in Miami, another one is, let's see, let me pull it up. This one is in Miami, but this one, if I look at that address, it's very different. This is Northeast 204th. This is Southwest 125th. It's very far from there. So if I look at, then there's one in Cutler Bay. Then there's another one in Cutler Bay, one in Miami. And I think you're getting the idea, Miami. So there's not that many options for properties now. So I'm gonna stop sharing my screen for a sec. So in the past, when we had to get super specific about like neighborhoods and all that type of stuff, because there were so many listings that were showing, there are very few showings, very few listings that are there. And so now we could be a little bit more aggressive with the price. We could ask more, because obviously if there's very little supply and there's a greater demand, we can ask for a higher price. And so like if someone is doing they're trying to do basically the analysis of the properties that sold in the past, a lot of times in these neighborhoods that we look, there are going to be none. And if there's none, what do? Do you go a little bit further out? Do you go a longer time period? What do you do? And for me, I would rather, instead of trying to get a comp of a property that sold in the past, comp meaning a comparable property that sold in the past, I would rather look at what the options are for the buyer. And if there are not that many options, I'll just keep going up. So let me share my screen again. So like, as a seller, if I'm pretending I'm a buyer, let me go back to the criteria. I'm like, wow, there's not that much there. And these properties are all over the place. And if someone wants to really live by me, let me up the price. So let me go to 750 or less. Let's see what pops up. So now there's 31. From 13, there's 31. So let me go to 700. Let's see the options there. There's 21. So let's see these 21. So these 21, Hialeah. You know, what's probably better is if I go from the higher to lower. So let me change the price. Let's go from 699 or above. So this one's in Miami, that one is 699. This one is in Miami, 699. Palmetto Bay, Miami Lake, so a little bit further away. Doral, a little bit further away. Miami. So as you can see from this exercise, Miami, now there are more options and you're getting more competition. So in this case, if I was listing the house for sale, I wouldn't look at that neighborhood. I wouldn't look at what sold recently. I'm going to feel okay about pricing it at 700 and seeing, you know, and like one of the things too is at 700, I may have only like 10 or 5 or 10 different competitors, which isn't that much. And buyers know that because there's such little supply in the areas that they want, they're willing to overbid, pay a higher number for it, or willing to like sacrifice a little bit on the inspection or waive the inspection completely, or sacrifice on the appraisal, pay higher than the appraised amount. Because if someone wants to or needs to live in a certain place and there are very few options, they're probably going to have to pay more for it. And if there's one person looking for those specific options, there's probably many more. It's not just you that are that 1 in a million person looking for that particular area. So there's more competition. So in this market, don't just price your homes higher because you hear the market is hot, but take some time and look at what's available for sale. And you can do the same thing with condos, you know, pretend you're that buyer and you're looking for that condo that maybe is built 2000 or newer, has a water view, is at least on the 15th floor, and is within these few zip codes. Because that's how, or these areas, that's how buyers buy. They don't look at what sold recently to figure out what they pay. They look at what is on the market. That's how you do it. The typical way a buyer buys a property is this. They first think about it for a while, then they decide to do it. Then they have their price range, they have their beds, their baths, and maybe a few other pieces of criteria and the area that they want. And then they start looking. Once they find something that they like, then they're going to figure out what to pay for it. And if there's not many options, they're going to have to decide, should they pay the amount for it or should they not? Or should they put in an offer or not? In this market, you know, in a very, very competitive market where the seller has a big advantage, there's not that many options. And if there's not that much inventory, that's how they do it. Buyers don't look at what sold prior. And as a trying to be, you know, an educated realtor, I know this, and this is sad. Probably 95% of the realtors don't know this, or they know it, but they don't really pay attention to it. If I see a property that sold yesterday and we're in a real estate market that is going up every single month, and we have less inventory each month. There's less and less inventory, and it hasn't started trickling up yet. I know that what sold yesterday, that property probably had an accepted offer 30 to 45 to 60 days ago. And if we look at the real estate market 30 to 45 to 60 days ago, it's slower than it is today. So if I use data to place an offer in a market that was worse than it is today, I probably won't get the property that I want. I probably won't get my offer accepted. So as an agent that really analyzes data well, I did finance in college. I worked for a hedge fund company. I used to give an analysis for South Florida for, I don't know, 3 or 4 years. I can't remember the exact time. It was a New York multi-billion-dollar hedge fund company. So I definitely study the numbers and I make my analysis. So think like a buyer. If you want to get the most money in 2021 for your property, think like a buyer. Look at the options and then be a little bit aggressive on the price. And if you don't get it, it's okay. We could always lower it. And I would recommend lowering it like in a couple weeks, 2 or 3 weeks. And it depends on the activity you're getting. If you're getting a lot of activity and you're not selling it, then it's a few things. It's probably not the price, because if the price was what was stopping them, you probably wouldn't get the most motivated buyers looking at your property when it first came on the market, because it would be priced too high and they would never make the appointment to see it. So what it also does, if it's not the price, if the price is appealing enough for people to want to see your home, then it could be other things. It could be the condition of your home. It could be maybe the pictures look better than the home online. Maybe the home doesn't show well. Maybe it's messy. Maybe whatever it is. But it's probably not the price if you're getting all these people that are looking at it. Or it could also be that if a lot of people are looking at it in a time where there's a lot of inventory, that can mean that there are other homes that seem more appealing than yours. But anyways, the key to 2021 and getting your property sold for the most money and in the future is to think like a buyer. Look at their options and pretend you're that person. And when I say pretend you're that person, really pretend that you're that person. Don't have an ego about your property. And if you do that, and whether you use an agent or not, if you do that, if you get someone else who has experience, expertise, it'll help a whole lot and you'll be able to get a whole lot of money. And, people will ask me all the time, this is the last thing I'll say before I go. People will ask me, as a consumer, why would I use a real estate agent in the hottest market of all time? And, if you've done this many times, maybe you don't use a realtor, maybe you do. That's up to you. But I always ask them this: how certain are you that you are actually, maximizing the money that you're getting? And another thing is, in my 17 plus years of doing real estate, I've only had 5 easy transactions. And until a few months ago, it was only 4 in 17 years. Every single transaction has something that's difficult. It's a roller coaster ride. There are going to be days that you get the offer right away and it doesn't go through. There are going to be days where the appraisal doesn't work, where there's issue with inspections, where there's issue with the financing. There's going to be tons of issues. I guarantee you that. And if you're up for the challenge and you're certain that you're getting the most money based on what you're doing, you're certain that you're okay handling the transaction yourself, and you're certain that you don't want a third party to buffer you between that buyer, then by all means do it yourself. But if you're not sure, then maybe get a second opinion. It doesn't mean by speaking to an agent that you are going to use them, but at least, if anything, it gives you some ideas what to do. And thanks so much, guys, for taking time out of your day to watch our videos. And if you haven't subscribed to the channel, please do. And if you like the video, like, comment, share the video. and make sure to hit that notification bell so you could get all our videos as they are released right away. Thanks so much, guys. Stay safe. Love you, and all the best.